Hi, welcome to the Deus Ex Human Revolution Director's Cut commentary. Here is Jean-François Dugas, the game director on the game, and I'm with
Mary DeMarle, I am the lead writer on the game.
And I'm Jonathan Jacques Billetet, and I'm the art director.
And I'm Steve Shipkowski, I'm the audio director.
and we'll have probably some guests with us today. So, with the first cutscene, well, when we started this project, we were kind of like, it was important to us to have links to the X1, but we wanted it to be subtle. We didn't want it to be totally in your face, even though the first character you see is Bob Page.
But you're not supposed to know that.
We wanted it to be subtle, so the first thing we did was to do just that.
But what is strange, even with the die-hard fans, when they saw it for the first time, most of them didn't recognize him, even though we tracked back the real actor.
Yeah, we went out of our way to find the real actor. We thought it was important to keep the continuity and to use him, and we thought the hardcore fans would really like it. And I think the plan was to keep the guy really in the shadows.
Yeah.
And I remember I was with Dominique Demers, the lighting guy. I was darker, put it darker, and it was all constantly a debate at how much of his face we should see or not, and that was fun. Yeah, so now it's the cutscene where we're introducing Adam Jensen. Actually, this TV news is probably the only TV news that has some animated 3D in it, which was the original plan with those TV news. But as we figured out the scope of what we had to produce, and we had so much to do, and with all the other cutscenes and stuff, we quickly realized that we wouldn't be able to.
We wanted them all to be 3D.
I know that when I was writing it, I wanted it to be like, first you wouldn't even know you were watching the news. You were actually seeing like the stuff going on at the Capitol building, and then slowly you realize, oh, it's news. But what we kind of envision doesn't always work.
Yeah.
And then with Megan and her necklace, that was another very important part for us, because from a story perspective, we wanted to establish something that was a part of her, something that made her human, and that would have on this relevance, because eventually we had all these plans that like you might find it in the FEMA facility where she'd been taken and stuff. So it was a very important thing, but I think that we didn't necessarily communicate that.
No, this is one of the few little times that me and you didn't talk or something about it, because usually things went pretty well in terms of what you wanted and what I wanted. But so at one point it was like, we had her design down and everything. Megan was pretty much finished in terms of what she would look like. Then I think it was either you or JF, he came up and was like, where's her necklace? I'm like, what necklace? You're supposed to have a pearl necklace. I'm like, really? And I'm like, the whole thing's done. She has this big collar and she's all zipped up. And I'm like, where am I going to put it? It's like, well, just put it over her clothes. I'm like, you don't put a necklace over clothes. But we ended up doing it, which I think looks... I personally think it looks tacky, but it's fine. I mean, it works. It works in the sense that it did the purpose that it had to do.
So now we're in Megan's room.
Yeah, this is Megan's office. Obviously, pretty much the first in-game part of the entire game. This was a pretty important room for us, because since the clutter is really important in the game, we wanted to make sure that it was there straight from the get-go. So this is one of the really, really good rooms in the entire game, where it's extremely cluttered. That pillar of the art direction was quite well executed.
And the Cyber Renaissance is, you can already feel
yeah,
it.
You can really start feeling it and all that.
It's not the biggest one.
It's not, for Cyber Renaissance, it's not the biggest one, but definitely for the clutter, it's one of the good ones. Now, I have no idea why everybody's so messy in this game, though, and that nobody cleans or puts their stuff in order, but doesn't really matter anyway.
When the end of the world is coming, you
That's
have
true.
other priorities.
That's
right?
true. Yeah.
Like living your life.
Like living your life and leaving pieces of paper everywhere and stuff like that. They probably don't even know what paper is anymore anyway, because they're in their phones and stuff. That's why the paper is all over around me. Like, we don't know what that is.
And
Yeah.
now if we look at Megan, like her idle stance is quite awesome.
No,
like
the idol is
Yeah,
She's
I've
a sexy
always
kitten,
hated
right?
that. I've
a
always
sexy
hated
kitten
that
who wants
when
to
you
go to
turn
the
and look.
bathroom.
Exactly, and I've always hated that. And quite frankly, when I play the game, I like to explore and find the different items, even though I know where everything is. And so I purposely don't look at her the entire time.
Yeah, I think it's almost borderline sexist, really, just the way she's
no, I
standing
think
there.
it's out of character.
It's out of character, but it's
Mhm.
also
It's
like,
totally
you know,
out
it's a
of
woman
character.
waiting for a man, and she's like, you know,
Yeah.
like, it's just, I don't know.
Yeah,
But, you know,
sometimes we know
yeah.
it, but we realize it too late.
Yeah, exactly.
And in this room too, we, like Mary alluded to, we had several pieces of information that actually were kind of selling in advance a little bit the conspiracy
Yeah.
and the story twist and everything. And actually, that was a huge debate among the team, like among the people in the team, whether we should hide those.
Yeah, how
those
obvious should
items.
they be?
Yeah, do they be obvious or not?
Yeah.
And,
Should it be like? And in fact, I think the achievement you get for getting all of them is old school gamer or something like that.
Mhm.
Because we
Really?
were, yeah,
I didn't
because
even know
we were
that
thinking
achievement.
that.
Yeah, it's the
We were
point and
thinking
click
that
kind
it's
of,
like the point and click mentality
Yeah,
because it's really
It's the-
something that's up to you to decide.
It's the
and
King
find.
Quest achievement.
Yeah, but for me, yeah, it was really important that we hide them. But some thought it was maybe too hardcore, and we went into okay. When you get close, you have now the icon that you can press. So now you get the
Yeah,
information
yeah,
about
you
that.
need that. at
So I
least.
think it was kind of a fair ground.
I agree.
So internally, we've always referred to this section of the game as the walk and talk. And it actually wasn't the original opening for the game. We had a completely different idea for the opening to be more of a training mission where you're infiltrating your own company as part of a security test. But there was a lot
I
of
remember that.
a lot of discussions among the team, and a lot of people didn't think we could pull that one off. And ultimately, we ended up kind of taking a new direction on it
Yeah,
and working in this kind of
And
vein.
it became the walk and talk, and actually was a nice way to have a good show don't tell moment,
Yeah.
establishing the world and the characters.
And
right off
it,
the bat.
exactly. And at first I was, because I really liked the original idea, so I wasn't really keen for the direction. But then as I started working on the script, I really did kind of start to like how it shows off the world.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember the first draft of the script, I think it was Joe who pointed out that we were putting a lot of techno-babble in there, and it sounded
like a
much more Star
It sounded like
Trek.
it was. Yeah, it sounded like it was like a big spaceship that they were running. You know.
So we had to kind of go through extra passes to fix that and to
and
lengthen it.
Here to the right, it's cool. Like we have one of our artists with he wanted to have an homage to the $6 million man, which was really cool and showing off that we're not that young.
That
So-
girl is such a bitch there. When I stuff she said.
Well, we had to establish all their characters right off the bat as fast as we could. As fast
And
as
it
we
was
could.
another nice addition about having the VersaLife logo. And
Yeah.
stuff.
Yes, and the arm. I remember a lot of discussions about this arm because it plays a very important part later in the game, and we really needed to
show it.
showcase it. And
that's why he has one sleeve and on the other side
Yeah,
he doesn't
yeah.
have anything.
And I remember also with the artist thinking about what the arm should look like because it
Right.
needed to be recognizable
Absolutely.
for when Tongue would have it, but at the same time we didn't want it to be like, I don't know, just like purple or something, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It needed a subtlety and at the same time something
Yeah.
that you would remember.
That's true. And that scene, like with the Claymore explosion,
That's a
it
cool
took
part.
it's really cool. But it took so long before it worked. Like the dolls were always staying in the air or not moving or just falling on the ground. And it takes time.
yeah.
Pleasures
And
of physics.
if I remember correctly, they're going to get in the elevator now, and there was, I think, a lot of technical issues. First of all, with the elevator, but one of the things that we also wanted to do was we wanted to kind of focus as they get into the elevator. You'll see suddenly we get the camera shot, and we kind of wanted to have this theme running through the game that this is Eliza who is controlling the cameras and watching Jensen all the way from the start
spying
and spying on you. So here, this was a
Most
good
certainly.
moment, and my one regret was it was such a great idea, and I think the cinematic director brought it up,
Yeah.
but then just unfortunately never carried it through with many of the rest of it.
Yeah, it was a very good idea that
we ended up not really carrying through. Well, we got so
when
much
you've got
to
a
do.
project this big, yeah.
And now
it's
they
hard
talk
to
about
do
the
it.
dog, right? The famous
Oh, that's
dog, right?
right. The dog. The dog was Adam's dog. Yes, that was something when we were working on one of our earliest demos of the game, and we had to fill the world. One of the script writers said we should have this email about Adam's dog, and it should be dead. And I was, at first my reaction to that was, oh, that's terrible. But as long as it's not a cat, it's okay. and
Dogs are fine.
and
They
then
can
we
die.
were able to take that and carry it through much more.
Now we get one of our favorite characters.
Yeah, Pritchard.
Yes.
And
Right,
this here,
Pritchard.
like, what is really cool is that, just like a real guy, he just looked very, not too subtly, to Megan's ass. And like,
Quick
with-
glance at her butt.
exactly. And I
The
think
fact
it
that
had
yeah.
authenticity to
Yeah,
Well,
the
it
fact that he
defi-
also did it in front of her ex-boyfriend.
It
and
definitely
everything.
tells you a lot about the character right off the top. Like he hasn't even spoken a word yet, and just that action speaks volumes as to his relationship with Adam.
Yeah.
It's Andreas.
Yes.
Andreas Aspergus.
Yes.
Aspergus did,
Yeah.
and actually it was quite fun because I think from a writing perspective we really wanted Pritchard to be this dick, and Andreas was so good. He'd come in and he would do this, and after every take he would finish it and go, God, I hate that guy.
And now we hear the
wnat code theme.
The wnat code
Yeah,
theme.
I really thought when I heard what Mike had done, there was a chance right there to kind of bring a little homage to
Touch.
the UNATCO theme, and we felt like this was sort of our new UNATCO, and we wanted to just give a little nod to it, and I found it was a great way to showcase into the beautiful room that John and his team designed
Yeah,
here.
yeah, no, and it worked really well because we just past that point now. But when we first walk into the corridor that leads into David's office, is really one of my favorite parts of the game. Just the way you crescendo with the music at that point, and this is one of my favorite rooms in the game as well. And just everything just culminates together, and it's just like.
It's very emotional.
It's so emotional.
It's really strong.
Yeah. I think for the story, but also for what we try to put together as a team, it's all there, and I think it's very emotional for us as well, just as a in relation to the project,
Right, absolutely.
Environmental malfunction. Laboratory subsection 6. All lab chiefs, please report in.
We better not take any chances. Not tonight. Use my elevator to get down there. You know the code?
Yeah, 0451.
Let me know what you find. Athena, get someone to shut off the damn racket.
Yes, sir.
So now, if you look at the sky by the window and everything, like one
The
of
city,
the
you
city,
know,
one of the early version, like the sky was filled with so many aircrafts that it felt like
that little
it was
flying cars,
yeah,
whatever
it
were.
felt like it was Coruscant on Ends Towers, and we were like, no. Okay, it's in 2027, but
Yeah.
like it's still the
I mean,
normal world.
Well, the thing's that they're not even flying cars. There's no flying cars in
No.
in our game. In
No.
the world that we created, there's supposed to be choppers or personal airplanes or private jets or whatever. But even now, I think there's too much.
Yeah, it's
But it used to be columns, like in Coruscant.
yeah.
It's like,
It's much better, but it could have.
It's
been
much better, but it could have been because Adam has his chopper, but we never intended this to be a world where there was particularly suddenly people just flying around
TIE
to go,
fighters
TIE-
everywhere.
yeah, to go shopping or whatever, you know,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah.
And then on the Serif's desk, there's the chessboard.
Yeah, the chessboard is pretty funny because I had a thing with one of the guys at Square Enix in LA where he gave me this really great idea once. He wanted the chessboard, the pieces to be placed as the winning move of Kasparov against Big Blue. And or was it Kasparov? I was about to say Bobby Fischer, but no, it was Kasparov. And I kept telling you, yeah, it's a great idea, we'll totally do it. And I was always forgetting, And every time they'd get a new build down in LA and he'll play it, and he would like send me an email, man,
Where's
the
the
pieces are
chessboard?"
still the pieces are still just like there's no game going on, And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And I just kept forgetting, and then we ended up not doing. But it was a great idea because I'm sure with the kind of fans that we have,
Yeah,
they
would've caught
totally
it.
would
They
have
would have
like
picked
they
it
would have
up.
picked it up
Totally
that it's the last
Yeah,
move. Yeah.
And now, as if you go to the elevator, now there's the code, like in the pure tradition of Looking Glass and Ion Storm games.
Yeah, I mean, 451
um,
has been in all of their games. A reference to Ray Bradbury, one of my favorite authors. May he rest in peace. And so we knew it had to be the first code in the game.
Right.
And one of the funny things was that actually when we were creating again the demo, I think it was for E3, which happens much later in the game, one of the level designers, without even thinking it, put in the code 0415.
He switched the
something. Yeah, he
numbers, but-
switched
Yeah.
the
Switched them
numbers, and
around.
everybody was like,
Is that the
"Look,
code
is
for the
that
bomb?
supposed to be? Is that no? It was for
No,
getting
no, it
into
was
Khan's back office."
in the hive.
in the
Okay.
hive.
Okay.
So, but we basically just knew we had to get that in for the
Yeah.
first code.
Yeah,
And it was
yeah.
funny because I had a flight once during while we were making the game. I don't know, I was flying where, probably for some marketing, whatever, something. And I'm in the plane. I'm looking at my flight number, and it's 0451. And I'm like, no. And I took a picture. And I actually tweeted it first, and then people were like, no way. And then I'm like, yeah. And I took a picture and I posted, and people were like, my God, it's the premonition. It's like, walk out of that plane, it's going to crash or something.
On a remote island.
Pritchard, where's Megan? She report in yet?
Her GPL implant shows her moving through the microchem labs. I think she's running.
Damn. Must have been a serious equipment failure. Can you get eyes on her?
I'm trying, but the intellicams aren't responding. There's interference coming from somewhere. Find out what's happening, Jensen. Hurry!
Pritchard? Pritchard!
So this section where the attack takes place, originally what we had wanted to have was that you would actually go back through the area that you saw through the walk and talk, and kind of do that kind of whole Half-Life thing where you take the descent down and then you fight your way back through everything you saw earlier. But apparently remind me again, JF, I think the original walk and talk was not designed.
No,
the level.
the layout was
The
built in
level
such
design,
a way
yeah.
that it was just made to be controlled, not to have a player have total freedom.
I mean, we would have had to change it a lot to make it
Yeah, to make
gameplay
it
kind of
work, yeah,
acceptable,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
we wouldn't have recognized it as the walk and talk.
Because
or-
even there are some places we didn't put collisions or anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in that sense, then we had to kind of refigure a bit of the story in terms of. Actually, it came in better for us because then when you come later into Seraph Industries and you see the signs, you see parts that are under construction, and it's because it's where Megan went to in the elevator ride. So it ended up working out pretty good for us.
True.
So here we're just right before the scripted event with Barrett, where he kills the scientist. What's funny is that originally in the map layout, as you were walking down this corridor, there was a window in front of you with fire and smoke. And what's funny, it's when you were getting there, it was triggering the scripted event. But players were attracted to the window to look outside, and they were totally missing the scene with Barrett and everything. And at some point, I asked the artist to remove and just put I would say a blend wall to make sure that players are attracted in the direction of Barrett. And after that change, like in the playtest and everything, it was working super fine.
Damn artists.
So here in this room, we see for the first time the two Black Ops killing a scientist that he falls off the guards and everything, and that has been a crazy ride just to get this thing working. We were on the verge of cutting it because it was really hard to have those scripted events, working with the environment and with the physics and everything. It has been a nightmare, and I fought until the last minute to make sure that we get this in, and finally it worked.
It worked really well.
It was
I don't think most people realize, most gamers, how hard it is just to put things like this. I mean, depending on the engine that's being used, but how hard it can be to have those scripted events going. It's just one guy being pushed over, railings, but it's
especially when you don't have the tools,
and if you don't have the tools.
And on the audio side, we worked really hard. Like for me, it was a huge thing to try and really sense the show don't tell of the terrorist attack happening. So like as you're walking and you're coming across dead bodies and that, I thought it would be cool if we could hear the sort of the violence and the killings and all that before you see it, and then when you'd come around the corner you'd see the bodies laying there, and it would kind of put it in context. It didn't come out as hot and sexy as I hoped and wanted, but it came out really cool. And again, there was certain limitations we had to deal with that was behind it, but the team came together and pulled out something that was really close to what we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so here we're just before the corner where Fedorova is introduced, and she kills some guards. That was a lot of work and everything, but that sequence came quite late during the development, and we realized too late that it wasn't working because we foreshadow it with the two guards being killed at the other end of the corridor, and we thought players would be attracted and see what's lurking beyond the corner. But actually what happened is that most players were scared, and they were just taking cover and waiting. Yeah,
because they just saw people like getting gunned down and everything. So
And
obviously your first reflex, is just to kind of hide or whatever.
And then when they were getting on the corner, when they realized nothing was happening,
scripted
the door was already open. The scientist on the other side of the door was already killed. So like it was and most players it was like that, and we were like, oh no.
And they never got to see Fedorova, and it was so important to try and set her up. And I remember that first animation that they had.
Yeah, it was a little outside of what we wanted, I think, Fedorova to be, because she, it's a bit of a clumsy sort of scene how it came together, and she sort of dematerializes and then materializes on the other side of the door, and we even thought, like, to try and help that, we put in the sound. If you listen, you can hear like almost the footsteps in the vent of like her traveling to the other side, but then she'd kill the scientist and she'd look at the players and do this kind of almost like Betty Boop sort of like blowing you a kiss. And we're sort of like, it's not really working
and
for us.
And I think everybody was kind of like, that's not this killer, this silent killer. No. That's certainly not what she's like.
But in the end, it came out pretty well when you have the opportunity to see it, right?
Yeah, but they changed the animation.
We changed it. That's
what I'm saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we had to see it for a long time. It really bothered people.
I gave up at one point. I thought, this is it. This is what's going to stay.
And I think every single one of us went to the animation team and said, you have to change it. You have to change it.
But now she just hops over the fence now, right? That's
absolutely. And the other problem we had was with the visuals, because she was jumping through the roof air vent, but the hole was so small, like, how can you fit in that? It makes no sense.
It needs to be at least
three times bigger.
Twice as big. What is this, an air vent for ants? But it's not. Did we make it bigger in the end?
Yes.
Yeah, and we made it a bit bigger.
A tiny bit.
Tiny bit. For more ants.
So the goal of this cutscene was really to surprise the player and get him. And I've always hated that shot of Megan because it makes it look like, what the heck is she doing while this terrorist attack is going on? It's supposed to be, is she a part of it? Whatever. She
still
should have
has to
been
go to the bathroom.
cowering in fear. But for the most part, I think this cutscene did a pretty good job of conveying the horror of what happens to Adam in this scene.
Yeah. I remember feeling bad for him.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's almost gruesome. Poor guy.
And you can really understand all those augmentations.
So that I really hated. I really don't like the green acid. It's like Saturday morning cartoons. Like, look, it's all green.
Like Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
And here Namir is going to come to us, and originally it was supposed to be in gameplay, and actually
we could move the camera and everything.
Yeah, we had a working prototype, but hey. So yeah, with the opening credits, actually it seems like people really liked it. Our original inspiration was to kind of the James Bond movies, the $6 Million Man's trying to showcase this augmented character and everything, but we wanted it to be really stylish, really like a James Bond movie. Sometimes they go beyond, they go in the abstract.
It's very stylized.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
It's actually more stylized than what we did almost. But no, it works really, really well. And I think Steve A, the sound, the track that's on it is just completely insane. By the way, that's a pig. Sorry, I cut you. But when we see the thing cutting the flesh, it's actually a real piece of pig that was bought. And
when I saw the visuals, I mean, I was really impressed. It looked really cool, and I thought it was going to be really important to sort of nail it with the right music tone, because I think something that wouldn't have worked as well might have undersold the power of the scene, but it was really powerful. When I put the music to it with the visuals, I was just kind of like, yeah, this couldn't work any better. Mike McCann, the composer, just really hit this one out of the park, and the reaction we got when people saw it and heard it, they loved it right away. Even I think Goldtooth, the people who produced the
who actually put it together,
they came back right away saying the music track is just selling this whole thing. It's bringing it all together.
It really was. And I remember the dialogue in this. It's so funny because the dialogue is so short and so simple, but you needed it to convey basically some of the hinting of what's going on with Sarah forcing the augmentations, but also we wanted it to sound like a real surgery and the kind of thing. So I remember giving it to one of the writers on staff and saying, could you kind of write these opening lines and stuff, and he was going on and researching all about operations and CCT scans and all these things, and in the end those little details are so important just to make it and pop it. Even if you can't hear it, it works.
So yeah, Jensen's coming back from the dead, and now is going to come. Well, we see now that Eliza is still watching him, and now we'll see him close his shades for the first time. Now he's closing on himself.
And he's closing. Exactly. That was the idea, right? That he's kind of now he doesn't really like what's happened to him, and he's a bit kind of
self-conscious.
He's self-conscious and making a little shield around him from the world.
The eyes are the windows to the soul, but
the eyes
we cover them up.
Yeah, he protects himself.
Yeah.
Adam, it's David. You in the building?
Just entered the lobby.
Sorry to put you out of sick leave so soon, but we've got a situation. A break-in at our Milwaukee Junction factory. Meet me at the helipad.
I have to see Pritchard first. Something's wrong with my retinal enhancement.
Frank's on the second floor in the tech lab. Make it quick. People's lives are at stake.
I think it was too much of a risk. I mean, it's a miracle he didn't die now.
So probably, depending here on how you played, you might have gone or not in the ladies' restroom, and eventually, if you go meet Pritchard, he will comment on that. So for the old fans of the SX, for us, it was just a way to pay an homage to this kind of similar scene in the X1,
and pay an homage to perverts.
Exactly.
And I think that's why we put the conversation that's going on in the there, and I
To
remember,
attract
yeah,
people
and I
there.
remember watching some of the people here testing jumping to see if they could see the women
Oh, yeah.
inside the restroom.
That was, and you added a sound about like if you jump a couple of times, like is it someone here or something?
Possibly. I to be
Yeah.
honest, I don't really remember. I just remember that I loved the delivery of the actor Pritchard when he just adds casually, and you might want to stay out of the women's washrooms. And
Yeah.
it was,
And
it was
when he
well
did
written
it-
and well delivered.
Yeah, and actually, I remember when we recorded it, they recorded it, and they were like, "That was just a joke line, right? I mean, that's not going in the game, is it?" We're like, "No, that's
It
real.
goes in the
It
game."
really will happen."
The boss called in a specialist.
Here we have a good example of show don't tell with this plate on the wall where we make this building feel much more important and bigger than what is actually playable.
And I remember the first version of it when I was playing it. The level artist had slapped up a sign, and it basically just had 3 floors to the whole building because that's really all you get to explore.
But when you're outside, it's humongous.
Yeah, and I'm like, wait, guys, we got to have more in there. We got to have like more offices and more things to show this. So we ended up submitting a list to them, and some of the things we wanted didn't get in there. Like we wanted a cafeteria named the Swallow's Nest, named after one of the writers who worked with us. And then the whole part about this is all under construction, it ended up helping us to explain why you only go to a few floors, and yet also tie into the story.
Jensen?
So with this one, the Final Fantasy poster, it was quite an adventure.
Yeah, that's one of the concept artists who had this idea, and he just he's like, it was not too long after we were bought by Square Enix, so he had the idea to do this little poster, and it's Final Fantasy 27, obviously,
Right,
because the
right.
game takes place in 2027, and he just put it like this for the fun of it, and it became something really, really big because we wanted to keep it. But, the way Square Enix works, they're very serious about the license and whatnot. So he actually went up all the way to Wada-san to be approved
And ask him.
Yeah.
to leave there. And he actually had to show it to some of the artists and some of the art directors of the franchise so they could approve that it had something that had to do with the game. And what's funny as well is if you look at the poster, the head of the lady is hiding the numbers, and there's actually not enough space for the numbers if you actually try to imagine them there, which doesn't work, but whatever, it's
That
still
was fun.
there. Yeah.
About time. What happened? You get stuck in an air duct on the way over?
Yeah, nice to see you too, Francis. Something's wrong with my retinal display. Can you fix it?
If it's what I think it is, probably. Of course, it might seem. Looks like your left and right imaging processors weren't completely in sync. But don't worry, your Sentinel health implant will kick in soon, repairing any damage that might have caused. Your retinal display should be fine now. Its recognition software won't be picking up hostiles yet, but you should be seeing radar and targeting reticules. Biomedical data too, if you're in pain.
Right. We done here? Because Seraph is waiting for me at the helipad.
I know. Radicals have broken into our manufacturing plant and taken hostages. Maybe this time you'll actually save people.
If you got a problem with me, Pritchard, why don't you just say it and get it over with?
Why no, Jensen? I don't have a problem with you. If anything, I blame myself.
The mighty Pritchard blaming himself. That's gotta be a first.
I'm the one who told Sarah if we needed a physical security team to protect us. If he'd read my report closely enough.
Wait a second. Are you saying it was your idea to hire me?
Not you, Jensen. I wanted Dynacore, Sharp Edge, or Bell Tower. All the top private security contractors were on my list, but Sarif wanted somebody in-house. And so did Dr. Reed.
I suggest you leave Megan out of this.
Why, Jensen? It's no secret how close the two of you were. And let's face it, you'd just been fired from SWAT for that massacre in Mexican town. No one was about to hire you.
You really have to stop getting your news from those Picus blogs, Francis. They only confuse you.
The point is, if Sarah had listened to me, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But Megan, God love her, always did have Sarah's ear.
Seraph's here is going to be hearing a report about violence in the workplace if you keep this up. You really feel like continuing?
Point taken.
I just hope it turns out okay.
Adam, how close are you to the helipad?
Almost there.
Good. Because SWAT's about to turn this into a PR nightmare. Meet me in the chopper. I'll brief you as we go.
So that's pretty funny. If you look at this pizza box here, it's Maggio's Pizza, and that's actually one of the texture artists. And if you look at the face on it, that's actually his face. And throughout, I think it's in Detroit. There might be one in Hangsha as well. You see the actual restaurant as well, with his name and his face on the window. So that's the kind of stuff we did. We did a lot in the game, which is.
Did he become rich with that?
Well, I haven't seen him for a while, so I think he's probably very rich. Yeah.
Retired.
Yeah, retired. Yeah.
Adam, how close are you to the helipad?
Almost there.
Good. Because SWAT's about to turn this into a PR nightmare. Meet me in the chopper. I'll brief you as we go.
Welcome back, Jeff.
You know,
Don't...
Are you...
Just asking the question. I was one of the ones who pulled you out of that mess. Not a memory I want to relive.
I'm fine.
If you say so. The boss is already on board, arguing with the DPD's
I'm ready.
Great. Then let's get it.
So yeah, the cutscenes are pre-rendered, but originally we were planning them out to be totally in-game and everything. And as we were progressing and realizing what it would demand and the tools and everything that we didn't have set up properly and everything, we kind of realized that we would never ship the game like that. So we had to rely on the pre-rendered cutscenes.
And there's a funny little thing here at the, if you notice when Jensen comes into the VTOL in the cutscene, he's wearing his jacket, and then when we start inside the plane, he's not wearing the jacket, and it was kind of a big problem where between cinematics and in-game they were saying, you know, something fell through the cracks. So for audio to try and help that out at the end of the cutscene, you actually kind of hear a cloth rustle, and it's supposed to be Jensen taking his coat off and throwing his coat on the floor to try and help sort of bridge the gap that, you know, it was too late. We couldn't fix the cutscene, and we couldn't put the coat on him here. It didn't make sense, so that's kind of how we dealt with that.
And this is a pretty major scene with David Seraph. It's really the first time you ever get to meet him in person. And I remember the casting for David Seraph. We went through a lot of different ideas about what kind of person this should be. Should he be really corporate? Should he be this? And I remember we had a couple contenders, and when Steve Shellen came in, and the way he played it, it wasn't exactly what I was picturing in my head, but I remember going, wait a second, it's like, it totally works, because we wanted a very charismatic guy who's a very friendly guy, but we wanted a corporate CEO kind of guy. And I remember walking out of that casting session going, oh my goodness, what is going to happen? And I think the decision, we did it early enough in the process that the decision to cast him totally affected how we wrote that character from that point on.
Pritchard will tell you more as you go in. Keep your...
Gentlemen, prepare for landing.
So this is pretty funny. You guys have probably noticed already, or will notice, there's paint buckets lying around the entire game, and they're all kind of empty.
All over the place.
All
They're
over
all
the place.
gold.
Yeah, and they're all empty yellow or gold paint, if you want. And the joke behind that is because there's so much yellow, gold, and orange in the game.
Black and gold.
With the black and gold, obviously the 50% of the black and gold is pretty funny. You guys have probably noticed already, or will notice, there's paint buckets lying around the entire game, and they're all kind of empty.
All over the place.
All
They're
over
all
the place.
gold.
Yeah, and they're all empty yellow or gold paint, if you want. And the joke behind that is because there's so much yellow, gold, and orange in the game.
Black and gold.
With the black and gold, obviously the 50% of the black and gold. Is the joke is that it's actually people in the world who actually, took up, paint buckets.
Jensen, it's me.
So this is pretty funny. You guys have probably noticed already, or will notice, there's paint buckets lying around the entire game, and they're all kind of empty.
All over the place.
All
They're
over
all
the place.
gold.
Yeah, and they're all empty yellow or gold paint, if you want. And the joke behind that is because there's so much yellow, gold, and orange in the game.
Black and gold.
With the black and gold, obviously the 50% of the black and gold. Is the joke is that it's actually people in the world who actually, took up, paint buckets of yellow paints and painted the world that way. So it just became a little inside joke, and we started putting these buckets all over the place.
So now you know how the black and gold was made in the
Yeah,
first
it
place.
is not from us. It is from very, very advanced AI that started painting the game to their liking. Really.
So as you continue playing the game, keep an eye out. You'll
Keep an
see
eye
how
out.
many
They're all
there
over-
are.
all
Yeah.
over the place.
Yeah. So this is pretty funny. You guys have probably noticed already, or will notice, there's paint buckets lying around the entire game, and they're all kind of empty.
All over the place.
All
They're
over
all
the place.
gold.
Yeah, and they're all.
Jensen, it's me, Pritchard. Where are you?
On a roof overlooking the plant.
Good. Your point of entry should be through shipping and receiving.
Should be, Francis. What the hell does that mean?
We have an employee entrance there, heavily guarded by purists, no doubt. So, if you're not a fan of the frontal assault, I suppose you could try accessing the building's roof.
So this is a manufacturing plant. It's the first mission that Adam Jensen goes through after getting fully augmented.
Once his RoboCop.
When he's RoboCop now, he's ready to use his new tools. The thing is that the first final version of the map that we got, actually, to just put people in the context, it was supposed to be those terrorists taking over this facility.
The Purity First guys.
Purity First guys trying to find evidences that Serif Industries was going through unethical work and stuff.
Imagine it's like as if Greenpeace takes over like a whaling ship or something like that. Or
But the first kind of semi-final version of the map, we started it and you wouldn't see anything. Everything was pretty.
Yeah.
Everything was super clean. Nothing going on.
And not only that, it was clean in terms of like you didn't get the feeling that there was no siege, but also the indications that it was besieged by Purity First also was not there.
There was nothing.
There was nothing at all.
And it was just the story telling you this is happening. But as you were walking in the game, you didn't feel it. So we had to go through several
So we had to go in
iterations.
and point out that we need things here, guys, like graffiti and break-in
and
signs and all that.
And the banners, and I know you've always thought that the banners look way too like professionally
Yes,
done for
they
an
look
organization like
for
Purity
for
First.
a terrorist organization, how they got the money for silk screening of huge banners was always curious.
Well, I've done silk screening at home myself, so I guess you would need a really big silk screen to make those banners, though. But yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah, this map actually it symbolizes the revival of Detroit in some way. In some ways, when we look back at the Detroit in the 20th century, it was one of the big cities for the car industry and everything. And in this manufacturing plant, actually, it's an old car factory that has been repurposed for Serif Industries' needs and stuff. And for us, it was kind of using this kind of metaphor to say that reusing the old power of America of the 20th century and put it in the 21st century, but into the new field of technology that makes the city strong again. And as we were brainstorming for the different cities in the game, like Detroit, and we were wondering like why Detroit and why we would go.
I was one of those. I was
exactly,
like, why the hell would we go to Detroit? But then it ended up making a lot of sense.
It made a lot of sense because when you think about it in the history of America, it was like the Ford basically revolutionized the way that cars are made.
Probably
in
even
Detroit,
part of the
and by
economy
introducing
itself.
the new factories and the new technologies
Yeah.
and stuff. So why not, when the industry fades, would someone else with a new technology come over and take it over and take over those old plants and basically recycle?
Yeah, we're actually saying that Serif did it on purpose,
Yes.
right? That he chose to refurbish, they say, right? Refurbish these factories as a symbolic move, right? It was purposeful on his part. I think it was a really good idea.
And last week I was we're in November as we were recording it. Last week I was reading in the
November
newspaper
2012. Yeah.
Yes, a newspaper story about Detroit that was being revitalized. Yeah, revitalized through different new companies, and the downtown it's becoming more and more interesting. It has nothing to do with biotech corporations,
But it's still the
it's
same
coming
idea.
back. Yeah, exactly.
Bridget. I'm in.
Nicely done, Jensen. May I ask how?
A vent on the roof. It'll be in my report next time we discuss security loopholes.
Oh, goody. I'll be sure to take notes. The Typhoon is in the factoring labs. There's an elevator just past the assembly labs that will take you to it.
Got it.
Yo, someone there?
So now we're entering into the hangar shipping zone of the manufacturing plant, and now we can have a look at the Purity First terrorists. Actually, when they were born, when they were designed, they were looking more like medieval knights. And then we kind of felt that it was not totally in line with what a group of terrorists would be, like, especially against augmentations, against everything. And in terms of the visual storytelling of them, it was kind of not doing exactly what we wanted.
Right. Well, I think the original designs, right, Joe, came out of the idea of the Cyber Renaissance and the Templars and who represented what?
Yeah, they were. Well, the idea was that we had, we had two contrasts, right? The augmented people, the transhumanist side was with the Cyber Renaissance, and the people that were against it was kind of like the Dark Ages before the Renaissance. It was more like feudal, it was more medieval, and we said, well, the way that I saw it was that these guys were against augmentation, so they weren't augmented, and they had to fight against people that were a lot stronger, a lot faster, and everything than them because they were augmented. So my idea was that to make them super armored, crazy ass big weapons, because they needed to, with military hardware technology, compensate for that. And my early designs were like these, like, really basically walking tanks. And then Jeff comes up to me one day and he's like, well, these are like grassroots terrorists and whatnot, and he's like, this would make no sense. And this is one of the few times where me and Jeff kind of like headbutted, because I really like that, because we usually always on the same page. I was like, no man, these designs are way too fucking awesome, but then it actually made sense, the grassroots and everything, so we made them look like cheap bastards basically,
and that's how they are born.
Yeah, exactly.
Scope the place anyway. I got over there. Take him out. Asshole. You're gonna die.
So here we're entering deeper into the manufacturing plant, and people need to know that it's probably one of the oldest map that we did, and before having final AI, before really fully understanding the sectorization of the map areas to really take advantage of the systems we had instead of showing off the limits of the systems we had. And since we had tons to do and many maps, we couldn't really revisit this map the way we would have loved to. And this is why it's probably one of the maps that showcase the limitations of our AIs the most. That's why you see in this map like some AIs that are going to a door frame and they stop there, they don't cross over to try to get you and everything. It's because the sectorization back in the day has been done and the map has been built with an AI that was not fully implemented, but when everything came together, we were like, oh, it shows the limit of the systems. We tried to hide it as much as possible with the guys like taking cover on the sides of the door, like pretending that they're just waiting there protecting themselves because you're dangerous, but
that's not really
that's not
because
really
you're
that.
augmented and they're not.
And for
sometimes it looked like that actually, but it's not what was going on really.
But in other maps that came later, now we had a better understanding of our systems. Therefore, we were able to build maps in such a way that those limitations wouldn't be that apparent. So here we're in front of the first conspiracy radio that is spread out through the entire game. And I can't remember how the idea... I just remember Steve coming to me really excited about this idea and really wanted to push it in the game.
Yeah, well, when I get something in my hat, I'm usually pretty passionate about it. We were doing weekly reviews in one of our review rooms, and we were playing it. And what was really starting to bother me was that we needed to be pushing the conspiracy side of the game. It was very important. And at that time, we were using a lot of the NPCs and the city hubs that you would talk to. And it always felt kind of strange and a bit awkward to me that you would go up to a random person on the street and hit, the talk button, and you would get some kind of line like, isn't it strange that Tai Young Medical seems to be shipping supplies to Panchaea? And you're like, who says that on a random street when you go up and talk to somebody?
Yes, it was very difficult.
And it was very tough for the writers as well, because, you're trying to make it sound natural, but yet... So anyway, I had this idea, and I mean, it's not an original idea, it's been done in other games, but we tried to put our own spin on it. We said, why don't we create a radio DJ his sole purpose in the game will be to push the conspiracy. And my inspiration was actually from the movie Eight-Legged Freaks, where they have the conspiracy DJ who lives in his little camper trailer out in the middle of nowhere. And I thought, this is awesome, because it'll cost us a radio for an object that can just be dumped anywhere in the map, and then we just go in the studio and record these long monologues, which the writers did have to write, but they did an amazing job on the writing. They studied Alex Jones and all kinds of conspiracy stuff, and I have to give Mary the credit for, I remember when we were talking about who we were going to cast, and she looks at me and she goes, well, what about Harry Sanjovsky, who was this amazing actor that we loved him so much and we wanted to try and fit him into the game somewhere, but every time we kind of cast him as a part, just by chance that part would kind of get scaled down or cut, and we would be left with this great actor that we couldn't put anywhere. So she gets the credit for the casting on that one, saying, what about him? And my eyes just lit up, and we didn't even cast, we just said, that's it,
Let's
it's
get
him
in there and do it.
And he
was amazing.
What an amazing job he did.
I think he did most of them in one take.
Yeah, he was just he just nailed it. He
and
really
it's Andrew who wrote also the
yes,
text, right?
Andrew, one of our freelance writers, wrote all.
Yeah, who's also doing very well right now, is
Yes.
Anakin
Anakin
Slade.
Anakin
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So Anakin Slade, the hip hop artist, worked on this game, and he wrote almost, I think, all the pirate radio
Yep,
DJ
all the
stuff.
pirate and most of the overheard conversations.
And I was just really happy. Again, it shows, credit to JF's game director skills, that he was open to the idea and he let me build off of it, because I was really happy when it went in.
Yeah,
and
but I had the easy job. I just had to say yes.
yeah, but it was good too, because after that, Mary's team could actually write lines for the city people that were more in line of what people would say, and we could actually dump all this conspiracy side onto the one DJ and let him push that whole thing. So it really worked out well in the end.
So here we're entering deeper into the manufacturing plant, and people need to know that it's probably one of the oldest map that we did, and before having final AI, before really fully understanding the sectorization of...
Jensen, I just tried to unlock the assembly lab door, but my override codes aren't working. Someone's changed the protocols.
What? Didn't you plug the...
I'm on it. But until I find this particular breach and fix it, you'll have to hack the door manually. Pritchard out.
Well, the room full of lockers.
Yes.
It reminds me of the
hate
good
that
80s
room.
and 90s.
Yeah.
I can't get through that room without having to open every single locker that exists in
It's
that
crazy.
room.
Well, me, I'm like you, but not for the same reason. It's actually like I hate it. I don't want to do it, but I still do it because I want to get the goodies that are inside, and I can't never remember which ones they are. But if I knew, I would just go straight to those ones, because there's probably almost 100 lockers in that room.
I don't know. I
For
never
real.
count them, but...
There's at least 60.
But it feels like it's a slot machine, huh? You have to
Yes.
put another quarter, you have to put... And you always hope that you're going to
No.
win some...
Feels like a pain in the butt.
But me, every time I go in this room, I'm like, fuck, I have to open them all.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it was
Exactly.
on purpose. It was kind of a joke, and it was kind of an homage to like all of those old school games where we didn't really care, or we didn't really think if we were putting the players through something that was too cumbersome or too overwhelming.
Right.
So there's just one room like that in the game. I guess it's all
I
good.
think it's the level designer. I don't remember exactly, but I think one day he just made that room, and when I saw this, I started to laugh, and it was so ridiculous.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like, yes, we
Of
have
course
we
it's
have to
going
do
in.
it.
There's just so many. I mean, even in real life, like either I don't know, at a gym or you go to the pool or whatever. I don't think I've ever seen that many lockers in a changing room or whatever. It's just insane.
Well, this corridor
Looks
reminds
vaguely
me...
familiar.
Yeah, it reminds me of a company I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people when we design, it's the way we design this was not inspired by what we're going to say at all, but a lot of people came up to us and mentioned that there's a really big game studio here in Montreal that we're not going to mention the name, but that most of us used to work there on the production of Deus Ex Human Revolution. People would start coming up to us and say, hey, this kind of feels like it, this mix of this very old building, kind of lofty looking, the high ceilings, the wooden floor, the old wood brick walls, but mixed with new stuff, new technology, and it does look like that's that studio we're not gonna name, but it was quite funny because a lot of people just would come up to us and mention it. Yeah.
So here we come next to the first hacking minigame of the game, actually. The story of a hacking, well, it was the first gameplay that we really nailed down. I remember when we were with the designers and trying to figure out what were our high-level intentions with this thing. It was that we wanted to stay in the real world, so we didn't want a mini game that pulls you out of the game world and you're just into another realm or whatsoever. We really wanted players, when they get invested in that, they would have also to manage their surroundings, because they can be guards, they can be anything happening and everything. So that was the high-level intention. But if we go back to the hacking itself, François Lapica, our lead game designer, was really thinking about different inspiration for that with pen and paper table games and stuff, cyberpunk ones. And he really wanted to go into this thing of going with cycles of CPUs that you put them into.
It was amazing.
It was great. Like,
I loved it.
He built it on an Excel sheet, and you had all those parameters to manage,
Yeah,
and it
really
was
liked
really,
it.
you felt that you were really hacking.
It was a geek's dream, really.
Absolutely. But the thing is that it was hard to really grasp it and see how visually it would work and everything.
But the tension was there. That's what I remember the most, is that it was really, really like tense, and you kind of felt like pressed by what you were doing and the danger of it. You know?
It was working, but still we were struggling with the visual aspect of it. We tried to be as mass market as possible and make it accessible. And actually, it's one of our artists one morning that came in, and he came with a drawing that was just like with icons and everything, and it was a portraying of how it could look on screen. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, I think we got it. And Frank looked at it.
Happy.
Frank was not really happy, because his pride was like, oh, I can't make it work kind of thing and everything. But he recognized that it was really the idea that makes the hacking work. And it took him 2 weeks to take that drawing and readapt his design to fit with that kind of philosophy. And then we went with the programmers after that, just implement it and iterate it with a lot of internal playtests and everything. And that's the first part of the game that was completed a long time ago.
Access granted.
So this is a very interesting room. This is a room that that's very dear to me. It's one of the early stuff that we designed for the game. This goes back to probably
2008.
fall.
Yeah.
No, this is like fall 2007, I think.
Are you sure? Oh,
yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it ended up being produced in 2008 for the game, but I think if it's 2008, it's very early, like right after Christmas or something, right? And so we weren't really sure what we're going with the game at that point, or the locations, and all that kind of stuff. But we knew we had to do the tech demo, right? And this is what we did. And this room, obviously, and the concept art, the idea was it was a tech lab. It was a biotech lab. It's Thierry Doison, of his artist name, Baron Thierry, who did it. Superb concept art. And the idea on Deus Ex is that we wanted to make sure that the visual style was very consistent throughout the entire game, right? It was really homogeneous. And a good way to do this is you make sure that the style that's on the concept art is the style that you want in the game, that there's no like dual standard, you know what I mean? And then what the production artists see on the concept art, they need to reproduce it. I wouldn't say as is, but they need to make sure that the style is the same.
It needs to stay faithful.
It needs to stay very faithful, And what was interesting is that when that room was first designed, sometimes we'd see, an artist working at his desk, and we'd see what we thought or what we think was a wallpaper of the concept art, on his computer, and then suddenly that wallpaper will start moving.
It was actually
And
the 3D.
It was actually the 3D room. We're like, holy shit, this looks 100% like the concept art. Almost it was one of my first time in all of my in my entire career where I really saw this almost 1:1 ratio between concept art.
It was impressive.
It was very impressive.
And actually, it's the first part, the first press tour ever we did with journalists. That's the tech demo we showed.
That's the first thing we ever shown to the journalists, and they asked us, what the hell is this engine, like, because there was so much of a flavor.
There was a flavor, yeah.
We definitely didn't have the best of engines to do this game. I mean, it's a well-known fact, but because of that style that we put in it, a lot of people were really kind of
very attractive.
Made it very attractive and special. Anyway, and we ended up. This is one of the few very, very early things that we kept and that we recycled, if you want, in the final game. And this is the room that we have here.
Give me some cover!
You activated the bomb!
The bomb! Do something! Save us!
Where's the bomb squad?
Do something!
Oh, just stand there!
Where's the bomb squad?
Hurry! Oh, just stand there!
Hurry! Where's the bomb squad?
Get us out of here!
squad!
Do something!
Access granted. Automated dispersal device deactivated. Countdown terminated. Have a nice day.
Pritchard, get word to Seraph. I found the hostages.
I'm relaying good news, I hope.
They're safe, and they're staying put. SWAT will have to exfil them as soon as I've got the prototype.
I'll tell Sarif, but don't take too long.
Pritchard, get word to Seraph. I found the hostages.
I'm relaying good news, I hope.
They're safe, and they're staying put. SWAT will have to exfil them as soon as I've got the prototype.
I'll tell Sarif, but don't take too long.
Rolling.
So we're in the hostage room in the manufacturing plant where we have the bomb.
The bomb.
And what is interesting with this one is that there are many ways to defuse the bomb. When you get into the room now, it's booby trapped, so the doors are locking behind you, and now you have to figure it out.
And you have to hack, supposedly.
You can hack. You can also find
the
a code for it, but another way to solve it, and a lot of players didn't know that, but you can actually shoot the tank to the left and the tank to the right, and that's it, because there are kind of gas
the toxic
substance.
mix is when they mix together in the base of the bomb.
But if they don't mix, there's no problem.
Yes, and I think there's actually, you can shoot the connector that causes them to mix. And I remember being in Los Angeles for one of the hands-on presentations with journalists the very first time that they got their hands to play on the game themselves. And I remember there may have been like 20, 30 reporters, and afterwards everyone was talking, and one of them said, I don't know if this was supposed to happen, but I just shot the bomb and it stopped. And everyone else was looking at him like, you're kidding. I'm like, well, you win the prize. You found the secret way.
This is the spot, man. Keep looking. Someone's playing.
I doubt I need to remind you folks that this is the second time the biotechnology firm has been attacked. The first time, 6 months ago, on the eve of controversial hearings.
Access granted.
So now we are entering into the first SAS zone of this map.
The airlocks.
Yeah, the airlocks. Actually, it's something that we had to add later as we were producing the maps to help the streaming.
Yeah, it's. I think also at that. point in the game, we weren't mastering our streaming capabilities as well as we were later on in the game. So basically, it's just your common thing that you see in a lot of games. While this door is locked, we're actually loading the entire room that's in the back, and they were big rooms. Those are the huge lab rooms with a lot of like stuff to do and a lot of stuff to interact with. But what's good about them, and this is how they should be done, is they're thematically kind of inserted. It fits. It's you're in a lab, and this thing looks like it's a place that's gonna, how would you say, Mary, decontaminate you? Is that it? Yeah, decontamination, sterilize you, and so like all the streams and whatnot. So I'm sure for maybe not for everybody, but for certain people, they didn't even realize what was going on. They were just like, oh, cool, I'm having this steam shower, and then the door opens.
Yeah, I just remember me fighting it the longer I could. I was resisting it because I hate those things in general because it's very artificial, and we all know that it's just we have to load the other portion of the map. Yeah. But like you said, it turned out.
Yeah, at least when they're well, thematically incorporated that way, it works in a good way.
I agree. So now we're facing one of the air vents of the game. Actually, the air
one
vents...
of the biggest...
cleanest air vents in the history of games.
Yeah, the air vents are definitely the cleanest air vents in the history of games. That's true. And also, this was probably one of the biggest challenges...
With the lockers
of the entire game of Deus Ex Human Revolution. Like, you would think it would be like AI or hacking or how to make like a story as complex as the one that Mary pulled off or whatever, but no.
The air vents.
It was the air vents doors.
And they had to be perfect because they're all over the place.
All over the place. The thing is that when you design something like that, there's a door that needs to open, and you want to make sure that, and especially the air vents, because we would hide them so much, like put crates in front of them or put all sorts of crap in front of them. The way that they open, you want to make sure that it's not going to obstruct these things or obstruct AI or whatever. But at the same time, wanting it to open in a fairly credible way,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So we had them that would kind of slide in a spaceship way, like on the side, like, you know, like, which was like, nah, you know, whatever. And eventually, what happened is our lead, Philippe Desrosiers, our lead modeler, which is also has studied engineering and drafting, design, all sorts of things like that. So he's really competent with mechanisms and figuring out how things work. And it might seem very simple when you look at it in the game, and it's like, yeah, this is what, you know, should have been done from the beginning, but it's not always that easy and that obvious. But he ended up thinking about just these hinges that are just kind of pushing the hatch forward and then bringing it upward, and it was that simple.
And that's the final solution. But when you look at how it was made in games before that, like it just opens in a very like kind of like a door, but a trap door.
Yeah.
But the thing is that we could have done that, but we had physical objects. You have the characters, and you always have to think,
AI.
Exactly. You always have to think about if the player's going to get stuck, if it's going to damage the experience and whatnot. And sometimes trivial things become really important things that we need.
Yeah. And I remember when he made that thing, like how happy I was just for a freaking hatch.
We were all happy.
We were just like, oh my god, this is insane. It's like we almost like went out for a beer or something, you know.